Well, as you know, I sat in on an interview that you conducted the other day with an offender and observed, and so I just wanted to sit down and talk with you about the checklist that I did. Have you had time to?
Yes, I had time to go over the checklist, but I wasn't quite for sure about some stuff on the checklist.
Okay, well, we'll talk about that. What are some of the things that you believe you did well in your interview?
Well, I believe that the stuff that I done well was first I greeted the client well, escorted him to my office pretty well. I just felt like that when he was in there, I wasn't judgmental. I listened to what he had to say pretty well. When the client came in, I was giving him positive affirmations to keep him going, doing the good things that he done when he was in my office.
Yes, you were very good in those areas. You definitely greeted the client and made them feel comfortable. You reviewed what was discussed in your previous session. You used very good nonverbal skills to interact with the offender. You also, you did a good job at giving those positive affirmations and letting them know what they had done right. And I think those are all very positive, things that you've done. You're very good at that, and I think that people feel comfortable with you when they come in. What areas do you think that you didn't do as well in?
Well, Chief, I don't think I done as good, or I could have improved, Chief, on some of the areas that I'm just not satisfied with the department. And there's this whole big EBP thing, this case management, this hug a thug type thing. I'm not too good at that, Chief. I believe I'm from the old school. I believe in if they violate, they need to go to jail. Only two things work best are jail and prisons. Okay. So all this new case management stuff, I'm just old fashioned. I just don't believe that stuff works.
Okay, well, those are some things that we can talk about. While I was sitting there and watching you, there were a few things that I noted. If you don't mind, we'll go over some of those, and they probably do tie into you're having a hard time with the EBP practices.
Okay, please share with me.
For example, you weren't very clear with the offender what your goal was for the day, what exactly you would be discussing and what you would be accomplishing in that appointment session. You had a lot of phone and other interruptions, people coming to your door. I think the offender felt like they weren't important enough. You also were kind of all over the map. You didn't discuss specific areas. For example, the offender gave you a scenario where they had quit their job because they didn't like their boss. They didn't get along with their boss. And you moved past that rather quickly. So there wasn't any skill building in that. What do you think you could have done to build on, that offender presenting you with that situation?
Well, personally, I feel like that since the offender lost his job, I don't feel like that I could have helped build that skill, because if the offender don't want to work, then I can't really force him to work. And I feel like if a man comes to work and he don't want to work, he's not going to be productive while he's at work, so he need to go find other work rather than him to stay there and not want to be there. And in that guy's case, he works at a factory. So if he's at work and he's not really paying attention to what he needs to do, he can harm or kill somebody else. So that was one of the reasons why I didn't address that working issue with him. And then that guy there, he's half schizophrenic. He got problems here, got problems there. So it's really hard to focus on one specific problem, which that's the problem that I have with EBP is they want you to focus on something, but when a guy comes in with multiple personalities, he might be Geronimo today, it might be Suzanne tomorrow. It's kind of hard to focus on exactly what the problem is, because the offenders nowadays got so many problems.
Yeah. And this is one of the reasons, you're exactly right. This is one of the reasons, so we probably do need to do that skill building with the offenders. Because if he's had that problem in one job, he'll probably take that problem with him to another job. So how could you have held the offender accountable for his actions? How could you get him to think about what he did?
Well, one way I could have got him to think is if I go carry him to the jail for a quick dip. Anytime a man spends time in jail, he got time to think That's all they got to do.
And what would your violations have been?
My violations would have been, since he's already behind on monetary, take him over for a technical violation and have him sit in the jail. It ain't like he's working, so have him sit in the jail for 2 days.
Do you think this would have changed his behavior for the future?
I think it will, because when people complain about jail and prison not work, it don't work if you don't stay in there long enough. I believe if you stay in there long enough, it'll break any man.
Okay, well, what does research say?
Well, now research does say, oh, you're right, Chief. Research does say that if you get a man to change his thinking, then possibly he won't follow with the action that he's doing, because it takes some time to think about actually what he's doing. So research does say that. So right now, I thought about quick dipping him, but I didn't quick dip him. So maybe that could be something that I can look at in the future.
Okay.
I know there's a saying out that numbers don't lie,
So what can I do to help you? What is it that I can do to maybe assist you to move along and start with the skill building process and working with offenders?
Well, you know what? One big thing that will help me out that you possibly could do is, I don't have a problem with doing the skill building, but me having a 70-some people caseload, having to go to court and do home contacts, I really don't have the time to actually go out and find the skill building activities. So if you get a chance, if you can produce some of these skill building activities, maybe slide it in my box or whatnot, maybe then I can have time to look at it and I can introduce it to different people. But with all the other requirements that we have to do, I really don't have the time.
I do understand that, and so I'll work on finding you some skill building practices, some things you can use in the office with the offenders, so that it'll help you, guide you. And maybe we can also get together and talk about some time management. So can we meet in about 2 weeks, both of us think about some ideas and what we can do, and come back and meet, and we'll work on a plan for how we can get you started on working on the skill processes. All right, well, I appreciate you coming in today.
Thank you.